with the penguin. We're messing with the penguin. You're messing with the penguin.
All right, this is the Infinite Plane Society Evening Deprogram for 5/16/2024. This is Fepe Akbar, Allergic to Bullshit, featuring Lean Dion. So we're back on track. Internet was just turned back on. I can see here we have a number of new members in the Blue Wrench Lodge. Upside Down Guy gifted 10 memberships, so welcome. Symbia, Linda Curtis, KKIN, Mimsy Schwimsy, Citizen Z, Max Carter, Mason Goldblatt, Kalekoff, Alexi, and Day Tripper have all received Blue Wrench Lodge memberships. Yes, we are live, joined by P. Trippa, the HBIC, Let's Go, Geofiora. All right, looks like we have a pretty good crowd. I sent out notifications via email. So if you want to make sure you always get notifications and you always get archives sent to your inbox. By the way, the last one was never sent. I'm going to update that soon here. Just sign up at ips.monster. All right, we have Cat Bunny Buffalo from DLive, Ted Striker 2112, and Penguin Doctor. It says hello Raft. Yeah, we were slightly disrupted on the 8th of May. I received a package from the Federal Express, and it was from the court, and it was something of a glitch. I've had a couple of glitches that have worked in my favor, or our favor here. In this case, my email expired, and it caused some sort of a miscommunication, and so I had a 10-day extension to fix my complaint. So I did that. I took the time, and at the very last minute, I had to pay a fee, and of course, the Raft, the IPS think tank, pitched in, and we had to get it through. There's just the reason why is, and most of you here who've been following, is this is a 6-year effort to nab a cyber stalker slash psyops operative who colluded with YouTube slash Google to censor our channel. And this is our chance at revenge. And this is a criminal issue, but it's a civil case at the moment. But the case moved forward. The other party, Google, has agreed with me that a fraud has been committed. And my objective with this updated amendment was simply to ensure that I am accusing them essentially of being negligent but responsible. So they're not going to be able to sidestep it. And I got it in within the window. So we are good to go. The next step is to serve papers. And, so today was my first day of goldfinch hunting. And I was calling up the process server. And after I made arrangements, I was out watching the sunset on the north side of town. And interestingly enough, I'll put it on the screen, a goldfinch perched on the barbed wire fence next to me. And it was singing. So you could extrapolate from that perhaps, goldfinch, barbed wire, prison, singing, slang for, I don't know, talking. So anyway, I took it to be a sign. But we're back on the internet. I'm back in the office, and I'm shifting my priorities a little bit here in favor of spending more time doing this, building up this. I was working a lot on art on the side, and to be quite honest, it's just it's not the time for it. Like, I certainly do art and it's important, but making a living off of art is a full-time thing, so is this. There's a conflict of interests, and I can actually double down on this at this point. We've reached that stage now that I'm finally monetized on YouTube, so I can take advantage of it. But things are moving along swimmingly, and the objective here in the short term is to punch Big Brother in the face on behalf of all, quote, conspiracy theorists who have ever been unfairly censorship, marginalized, and impugned just for having thoughts. Like, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm not in their universe, their alt universe with alternative facts. I'm not in normie land either. I kind of reject this whole paradigm in that sense. However, I do think that free thinkers have been unfairly treated by the mass media, not just in the form of criticism or private companies doing their thing, but this has been a government psyop to destroy any network of individuals who can see certain facets of the mass media mind control operation and connect certain dots. And we here are dot connectors. And they did try to sink this raft. We can prove it, and we're going to make them pay. And it should really embarrass them. It should embarrass a lot of people when this whole thing gets blown up. You'll see, because they're going to look like bullies, which they are if you think about it. Because by and large, conspiracy theorists are not these paranoid activists. I'm always chastising them because they don't do any activism, but that's actually a good thing. It's a good thing that the people who are terrified of chemtrails still fly on airplanes. Like they can draw a line between their conspiracy theory and their real life. They're functional, which is more than you can say for the denizens of Normieville or Woketown. Joined by Pete Trippa says here, oh yes, that's right. I will try to get you a membership. It's random, I'm pretty sure. I don't know how it missed you. That is kind of odd, though. Howard Boyd has joined us. He says, Timmy, buddy, don't miss with the penguin. Yeah, look, the whole thing here is that we have a think tank that is in the realm of criticism. It's almost a form of communal storytelling, myth building. Just being wrong is okay. What if you're just engaging in conjecture? We don't know what's at the edge of the universe. Just because we're talking about what might be there doesn't mean we are engaging in some kind of subversive, I guess, um, plotting or something. Because it's all projection. Like, oh, you conspiracy theorists must be conspiring to do something bad. It's bad that you're conspiring. And the concept of conspiring and conspiracy theory, we've kind of taken that because penguins, in addition to rafting up on the water, which is what we kind of do here on the Sea of Irrelevance. We form a raft because everyone else is submerged. They don't have a coherent view. And so we maintain the view with our network. And that's what the raft really kind of is. But in a similar way, in the barren, hostile environment of the Antarctic, penguins form into circles and they conspire. That is, they breathe together and their inward pointing beaks create a hot pocket of air analogous to a campfire. And they rotate around and maintain heat by conspiring. And if you look at the ice as a symbol of censorship, darkness as censorship, well, there you have it. Darkness, ignorance rather. I say darkness would be ignorance, the ice would be censorship. But both of these things are countered by what? By conspiring, by the breathing together. And that's kind of what we're doing. We're exposing what we don't know. We're revealing ignorance. We're exploring question marks. But you're not supposed to. This day and age, the answers are there. You just have to Google it. There's no reason for you to be asking questions. In fact, eventually they're going to ban question marks. They won't even allow them to be on keyboards if they don't forcefully remove them at some point in a door-to-door type of operation. When they go to finally purge disease X, which is a mind virus. Upside Down Guy says, trust the plan. Well, let's trust the infinite plan. Eddie F. says, have you listened to Human Vibration, Les Luthor's friend, interview on Sam Tripoli? I interviewed Human Vibrations back when I was working on the Dark Matter Digital Network, and I'll see if I can find that interview. Human Vibrations, for those who don't know, has a very good Twitter feed, and I think the only place we really differ is they fall in the camp of predictive programming consists of examples of how man couldn't possibly orchestrate all these events at that level, which is pretty standard. I feel like that's going to be the next major paradigm shift. People moving past the mystification of the aspects of media they cannot explain. It's a magic show. And just because you don't know how David Copperfield is doing this or that doesn't mean it's magic. I don't know how they did it, but everything they do is a hoax. I mean, that's not an oversimplification. Thank you again, Upside Down Guy. Huge supporter of the channel, has just passed out 20 more wrenches. Elephant Tusk says, how much money do you think Goldfinch is worth? Okay, now, there are a number of trolls and troublemakers I could have gone after. And I focused on him because of his net worth, what I perceive to be something collectible. This was before he was attached to Trump, which makes him a much bigger target. But one of the clues that gave him away was some braggadocious email about how he was with EAS Myoplex when it sold to Abbott Laboratories, like in 2005, 2006. So I looked into the companies involved and who was on that board of directors, And he was a part of a $320 million sale. So he has a lot of money. Looking into his family, his brother, working with Pat Robertson, I looked at their family yachts in New Zealand, the college he went to, his IMDb, his political and his connections in the mixed martial arts. All of this suggests that he does have a great deal of money. In fact, he used to kind of brag about it in various ways, and there I can point out various places where he lived, hotels he stayed at, and yeah, there's a lot of money there, no doubt. But I'm not doing this for the money. I would happily take his just have him formally indicted and charged and fully exposed for the huge uh, thing that he is. I'll try to be polite here. But anyway, this individual is a criminal at a minimum. We could say criminal, cyber criminal. But the fact that he's in the White House press corps is a scandal. So even without the money, this story is immensely valuable because it's showing how low the government media complex will go to shut down an individual, even effacing that person's freedom of speech, because that's really what they were doing. The email confessions, which were part of Exhibit A, actually have in quotes, "This is me, this is my voice," where he was quite literally doing this, and either he was doing it for his own sick pleasure, or he's a government operative. This is our question. Well, now that he's working with Trump and he's part of the Q PSYOP, it's pretty clear that we're dealing with a government employee. And if he did any of his work, any of his hacking, any of his harassment on government computers, on government time, that's a whole other level of criminality. It's very problematic. And I've had years to plan for his takedown. We really aren't doing this for the money. We're doing this for the victory, the vindication, and punching Big Brother in the face. Because once the rollout happens, the sequence of events following his prosecution, our channel will build back to where it should have been anyway, had we not been diverted. And we're better for it if you think about it. A lot of people had it easy talking about Bigfoot and UFOs, very comfortable on YouTube, and that's fine, but you get blinkered into the box that's safe, the establishment-friendly conspiracy theory realm. Kowtowing to establishment-friendly conspiracy theories is capitulation on a very deep level because you're blinding yourself, quite literally. Trutherville is not even coherent anymore. It's just lost sight of the truth. And what we're doing is we're splintering away into what I call the parallel media. And the fundamental basis is we're the group of skeptics who aren't automatically believing what we're seeing, A, and B, we're taking into account the fakeability factor when we examine the world stage. And a lot of people don't take that into account. And that's a major difference. It's a paradigm shift. You're either on one side of the screen or the other. And it is that cut and dry. And the way we're approaching this thing is either, you're going to have to let go of certain truth or orthodoxies, or there's just not going to be any room on the raft. It's all about quality control and quarantine at this point before it metastasizes. Okay, Upside Down Guy says, fix your settings to acquire gift memberships. Nicotrama says, I listened to that Human Vibration today. It was awesome. Well, Human Vibration has really popularized the term loosh. I had not really heard that term, although I think it comes from, I think his name is Jay Dyer, some other writer who years ago who put a book out about archons. But the concept of some sort of soul energy that the media matrix is tapping from the individuals as being the real covert purpose of it all beyond propaganda. It's actually soul sucking. Yeah, Human Vibration has done a lot to explain this concept of loosh, and I wasn't even taking that concept all that seriously until I heard it explained this way. And it all does make too much sense. Ted Striker 2112, Tim, what's your take on the new Prince pic? What does it mean? Was the pic manipulated? Okay, fake until proven real, especially now. But there's a new picture of Prince. Now, are you talking about the singer Prince or the Prince Prince? Because I'm seeing a lot of pictures like JFK, JFK Jr., Princess Di, and all kinds of like aged pictures, and it's a big thing with QAnon. So it's all misinformation. So I'm like, I don't know. I'll have to look at it. Salty Siren says, was a fantastic interview. Wish she was somewhere besides Twitter. Yes, Human Vibration has an account, I believe, on Patreon. And there's a circle of individuals there I've kind of become introduced to just by following their feeds, one of them being Les Luthor. And Les Luthor is a must follow. He's carved his own path, he's defined the term illusion warfare. Because we know now we cannot use the term false flag, cannot use hoax, you cannot use psyop, because these terms have been malappropriated by the other side. Elon Musk uses mind virus and psyop, so these terms are worthless. Illusion warfare. I like mind war because of Michael Aquinos. His book Mind Wars makes a lot of sense. However, weirdly, Jim Stewartson has the term mind war kind of um, specifically defined in his anti-QAnon crusade. I like Psywar, theater of Psywar, but we have to evolve our own terms to explain what we're talking about. We have to dodge their attempts to pigeonhole us or describe us as something that we aren't. Salty says, I can't even look at Twitter. Elon banned not only my accounts, but my IP address. I believe you. Absolutely. Because on one of my accounts, I can't do spaces. And I think it's a joke to Musk because I was paying 22 a month so I could do articles and long videos, and I stopped paying after I used my Premium Plus perks to contact tech support. And they wrote me back and I said, why can't I use spaces on this account? I can use it on all the other accounts. They never got back to me. And I think it's an inside joke that since I don't believe in space, they're not going to let me use spaces or something. I don't know. Musk did have his head of security for Starlink stalking my account ever since we exposed Mousegate. So for some reason they blocked me. But I'm on a new account, if you didn't know, IPS Think Tank, where I do spaces, I do videos. Enuful says, IPS, are you familiar with James True work? He has interesting insight about human perception. I think I might follow him on Twitter. I'm pretty sure. If you want to post links, please do. I'll take a look. Kevin Mooring says, Human Vibrations is just seconds behind IPS. I was following her before Sam Tripoli. Found her on Twitter. I also think that Human Vibrations and others do meetups, which is the next phase. Although I'm not discussing meetups in the sense of simply hanging out at a bowling alley or something. I'm not really about simply community building, which is inherently just um, vulnerable to infiltration and misdirection. What we're going to be doing are a series of debates, and I have a number of things that we're going to be debating, but it has to be in public. I mean, I like internet debates, fine, but there has to be skin in the game, and there are so many anonymous people out there who would never stand up for what they claim to believe on the streets, in real life, in person. But we're going to be doing some public discussions as a way of promoting Auto Hoaxology 101. And all of my, not talking points, but my perspectives and takes will be perspectives framed by the philosophical framework described in that book, which is simply taking into account fakeability. And look, a lot of the things that we hear debated aren't really debatable. Flat versus round, debating the moon landing. They're not debatable if both parties aren't taking into account movie magic. And I consistently see these somewhat popular flat earth channels trying to have a debate with the globe side. And they don't even accept that there could be any kind of trick photography, video editing, or that it's some kind of a deception or conspiracy. They just reject that. They accept the argument from authority. So these debates don't go anywhere. But I have some ideas on how to advance things. Upside Down Guy says, why didn't you break the news to the lady that interviewed you about being a conspiracy theorist that you know the origins of QAnon? Oh, I have contacted them on Skype, and I appreciate the support. This is again the reason why I'm able to focus. And also, look, this thing against Google and YouTube and Goldfinch has been Not just an expensive and time-consuming endeavor, but it's been a distraction, and I feel like it's behind us now. Like two more pieces of paper, that's about it. And one of them is being filed tonight, and that is the request for the service, the process server. And then tomorrow, I have something else, but it's pretty much done. So I'm looking forward to doubling down on the IPS and building our think tank on Gilded. I mean, we've had our issues with Discord, and Gilded is pretty solid. So if you're not in Gilded, go to ips.monster. But look, to answer Upside Down Guy's question, the origins of QAnon, at least one person who's involved in it, this is a subject of a documentary in progress. And I am going to 100% market this documentary and my findings to anybody who will listen. But I've sent this material to every single writer on Daily Beast, writers it is, I think, a couple of others, Politico, Raw Story. I just went around anybody who's ever covered QAnon, any of these authors like Mike Rothschild, Will Sommers, Kelly Weil. They've all been given the information, like details, and they've all rejected it, which is really astounding to me because it's a big story. I mean, one of the most popular people in the world right now is an anonymous person, and it's to the point where people have almost forgotten, like they don't care. Like, oh, you mean it doesn't matter? Ashley Babbitt died for this, and you don't think it matters? Oh yeah, okay. Portal Complex says the painting of Charles is none other than Vigo the Carpathian. Yeah, there's this thing that I've been following, and we'll talk about this a bit too, about how whenever, and I've seen this a few times. Let me bring this up. King Charles's photograph or his painting was just released, and everyone is talking about how if you hold it up to a mirror, or if you do a mirror image of it, it's the Baphomet. And I don't think you can make that argument. Like, I don't think it's Baphomet. I think you can put anything up to a mirror and create some kind of a goat-like appearance to it. Like, for example, there was a flat Earth conference that was actually roundly mocked because one of the speakers held a globe up to a mirror and showed how the globe has a Baphomet in it. Like, everything has a Baphomet in it, apparently, if you angle the thing just right. So I don't know if I buy into it. A couple of things about it, though. The fact that it's sort of pink is interesting, considering the sky was just pink. Considering Godzilla turns pink, Barbie pink, pink tachyfire in Maui. The whole pink thing has been a subject for more than a year now, so this is kind of interesting. So we'll get to that. I have a few other things I want to talk about. We got JLB and his green background was criticized by Simon Dan, and that's where they're at. Simon Dan and company are now engaging in just ad hominem. And JLB's green screen background is on brand because his logo is green. And I associate green with the Wizard of Oz's curtain. And who has done more to pull back on the curtain than JLB? So it's just kind of a nonsensical thing, but we're talking about color symbolism. Yes, Kevin Mooring. Les Luthor went to Ukraine showing nothing happened. You know how we did empty hospitals? He kind of did the same thing. Empty streets, all props, decoy operations in the mines. Like, I think he was mentioning how like 3,000, it might have been 30,000 of the most popular and most viewed war videos on TikTok regarding Ukraine were from video games. All right, moving down, checking out your comments, catching up. It's been a few days. Ollie Goering says, I'm going to guess MG is worth way over 100 million because of his friends. Yeah, agreed. He's friends with Joe Rogan, Alex Jones, and many others. Now, we kind of put a moratorium on talking about Alex Jones and Taylor Swift. I think everyone is pretty much over it. The only reason we talk about him is because he's a fixture and he represents something. a critical piece of mass media infrastructure. But just take a look at this. It's bipolar. It's a roller coaster. This can't be good for your mental health. The NWO takeover is here. Time to get right with God. All right? So, what does that mean? Well, the New World Order is coming. It's time to get right with God. It's going to end. Okay, lunch break. Come back. The end of the New World Order is near. Get activated. The Canadian Prime Minister has attacked myself and the meme site Diagolon, and they've tried to decredit this. This is another post a couple minutes later. So, which is it? The end of the New World Order is near, or the New World Order takeover is here. Get right with God. It can't be both. We're winning, they're winning. We're winning, they're winning. It's mind war, is what I'm saying. And just look, the good bad news is that the New World Order isn't coming because it is the old world order updating its outer trappings. And for the most part, they've already been here. Everything that's new or anything that's been added is just simply an extension. It's not a competition, it's not fracturing, it's not fragmenting. It's actually consolidating its power. Like humanity has already been conquered. Like we've been conquered physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. I think we can go ahead and just have that as our starting point here. So you're not going to fight the New World Order or prevent it from coming. It's what is. It pre-exists any of us. And mass media mind control is beyond just news. It's all encompassing. It's an immersive illusion. It is a false worldview construct that has been internalized by billions of people. It's an operating system. We have a hive mind, and you are programmed. There is no opt out until you're and there's no options to not be programmed, but you can opt out of the programming once you see it. You can deprogram. And so the deprogrammed are those who aren't falling for the contrived alternative programming. You got shadows on the wall that billions are transfixed by, but then a lot of people say that's fake. So they go to the next room over where it's alternate shadows on the wall. Elephant Tusk says Alex Jones came out with a recent video declaring that the NWO has won. You know why I think they deleted the Georgia Guidestones? They were embarrassed. They couldn't meet their quotas. They could not meet their objectives. 42 years after the stones go up, and it's like keep the population at 500 million, and we've like quadrupled the population from the time that this depopulation agenda was announced, dramatically carved in stone. Dewis and Paris says there's that God versus Satan dialectic. Oh no, NWO, therefore let me turn to God, give me a break. Yes, it's all about the black-white dialectics, and that's one of the reasons why I insist that we have to step out of the MSM/MSM plus frame. And what I call this is MSM minus. It's the suspension of judgment and the rejection of their framework. And again, it doesn't exist. There's not a platform for people who have figured this out. They get lumped in with the conspiracy theorists who are fed alternative lies. That's why we've created our own. This raft will metastasize. And that's why I'm saying that victory against Google, YouTube will be way more effective for growing this operation than money alone. If money alone could achieve things, then there would be no competition. Anybody with Goldfinch would have overwhelmed us. Money's not enough. We have something much more powerful. We can synchronize a lot of people who are on the same page, but what we need is a little bit of publicity. We're not trying to get anything more than the attention of those who can already see. And I believe that there are 10,000, perhaps 50,000. I might even be underestimating it because there are a lot of people who are really close to flipping a switch. I think we're talking about a paradigm shift, and it wouldn't be achievable for normie land. That would be it'd be too much of a shock, a paradigm shock to the system, which it couldn't handle. But I think that there are a lot of people on the fringes who are just a few steps away from seeing the value of a total separation, of stepping outside the box, of ceasing to fight their info war. Elephant Tusk says Summer of Floyd 2.0 is coming. Okay, so I've been watching that movie. I just finished it today. It's called A Man in Full, based off of a Tom Wolfe novel from 1998. And Regina King directed this TV miniseries that she was asked to do by Netflix in 2021. So here you have this Netflix series about a book from 98, based on a book from 98, but they've repurposed it to be about Donald Trump. And it's pretty obvious. His wife's in it, Ivanka, Barron. So I'm watching this for clues that it's Trump, and I'm finding all kinds. Even the company name. It's turpentine, but it's pronounced or it's spelled with an M, and it's Trump time basically. So I'm like, wait, Trump time? That's just too obvious. So I look at the book, and no, that's what's in the original book. So the book oddly has some predictive programming for the bankruptcy and fall from grace of a real estate tycoon. That's kind of the story. But as I'm watching this, I'm looking for clues. I'm looking for instances of what might be considered predictive programming. And one of the subplots is there's a character who is abused. He's like hit by a cop, and he hits back, and so it brings up this Summer of Floyd type spectacle where the attorney's basically telling the judge, if you don't let him go, this video is going to leak. So there's this kind of ominous, like the court of public opinion is going to look poorly upon this choice. So again, this just came out, and if you look at the movie, it's concurrent. This TV series, A Man in Full, is concurrent with the news right now, with the Trump trials right now, Barron Trump hanging out with mom instead of going to the RNC. All this stuff is mirrored in this movie. Now, these aren't coincidences. It's not a supercomputer. It's not the demiurge. This is the immersive illusion. When they produced this show in 2021, they coordinated it. They specifically align these things in advance. This is how they do news bending. But anyway, if this movie is to be any indication, I would expect that this is going to be a bad summer for Trump. Do you know who took a picture of the falling man? Says Upside Down Guy. Yeah, that was Richard Drew. Appreciate the super chat. Richard Drew, AP photographer, photographed the falling man, the one who's falling from the Twin Towers, and he looks like the hanged man from the Tarot. 33 years prior, he photographed RFK as he fell to his death. Same photographer, falling man and Kennedy falling to his death. The falling man photograph is owned by Rocket Man Elton John, who apparently has a thing for snuff. A Newful says, unfortunately, truthers are the only source from what we can get where we can get more people. Okay, here's the thing. The big box, the big MSM box contains Woketown and Trutherville, and then Normieland. Normieland, yeah, they're not even wakeable. Woketown is lost, and their hearts are in the wrong place. They're married to big government. They're basically in favor of total submission to big governmental controls and the relinquishment of their individuality in favor of a hive mind. I mean, they are that side. They're irredeemables, in my opinion. Trutherville is a wasteland. Mentonal has people doubled over. They don't know what's going on in the world. They're waiting for JFK. They're not in reality. In fact, they're drifting further from objective reality than the sleepers in Normieville. However, Trutherville is the default destination for anybody thinking outside of the mainstream. They end up there. The question is, are they going to get hooked on some horrible mind virus, or are they going to get infected with some horrible mind viruses? Are they going to get hooked on essentially black pill, red pill, misleading narratives, the false flag theory? Are they going to get stuck on chemtrails? But a lot of them aren't. A lot of them are just there out of habit. It's the default, and that's our recruiting grounds. So yeah, It is the only source. I don't think it's unfortunate. I think we're going to salvage what we can. But we only need 10,000 because what will happen is this. There are a lot of people who, and I think this is just programming, they see power in numbers and they're intimidated by numbers on the other side. A lot of people don't want to be outgrouped. Look what the mass media has done to the conspiracy theorists. They've turned them into terrorists, head choppers, nutcases. They've destroyed the idea that these are actually rational skeptics, which is what we really are. So what I'm thinking here is when we amass a certain number and what we do, actions will certainly speak louder than words. I think a lot of those people on the fence or those who might be cowed by the power of the other side will join us. And then there's another aspect to it as well. We can make it painful not to join us. It's like get on the bus or you'll be beneath it. We can force this thing, which is kind of the objective, but we have to have the numbers first. Ted Stryker says, how is Alex Jones still on the air if he's telling the truth? The elite would have shut him down. People have asked that for a long time. So what have they done? They've given you this trial. But you can believe that if you want. The fact of it is, he has never pulled back the curtain. And he's a moon landing believer. How can you trust anybody who believes in moon landings? Their judgment's impaired. Okay, continuing. Lean Dion says the show's pretty bad apart from Jeff Daniels as Trump. Oh, it's just pure propaganda. It's actually Trump as viewed through the lens of the Trump deranged. He's nothing like the guy. And the book's a parody besides. However, it is clearly intended to represent him and his wife. His ex-wife, actually, is Melania, Martha. His new wife, weirdly, is based on Ivanka, which is strange. They do establish this relationship between Barron and Donald. Barron's getting taller. I think it's Wally in this show. And the mother's trying to keep Wally away from his dad because his dad is a criminal and all this stuff. So there's these pretty clear examples. It's a satire. It's aimed at Trump 100%. There's a few clues in there. I guess you could say a death wish for Trump. I mean, I don't want to give any spoilers, but Elephant says, how can this entire reality be nothing more than a simulated reality? It's also contrived and artificial. Okay, here's the thing. The internal concept is a simulation for all intents and purposes. It's a construct. Objective reality exists. What the mass media operation is doing, and this is the government's intentional redefining of what it is to be human, is they're trying to make us metaverse dominant. Metaverse is conquering the meatverse. Fake is dominating real. And if they can get you to lean into that, they can get you to think that objective reality is not objective. This is my beef with the Mandela effect, which again, Mandela effect has been debunked. Any other reality glitches you may experience from now on will be called the Tim Pool effect, because there's no E in Tim Pool. It blew my mind. But again, just to be clear on this, we are the only objectivists in the world. Think about that. The objectivist society was filtered through the mass media. It was never objective. They became subjectivist. They didn't know it. They were tricked. I mean, this is a mass deception. We live in a world of lies. It's the lie world order. And we who have stopped lying to ourselves and can admit the limits of our knowledge, we can admit to being agnostic about this or that, we are truly the only, I would say, objectivists. In fact, what we're applying here when it comes to mass media analysis is an objectivist framework. In a world gone totally subjective, it's belief system versus belief system, and truth or veil is really where it's lost. It is so far from objective. It's become just what I guess Huxley talked about. Again, the sea of irrelevance, but it's worse than that. It's like a mud flood. It's impenetrable. Dewis and Paris says, I think calling this place a simulation is just another way of saying something exists beyond here, which I agree with, by the way. Right? Well, there's this like soul flesh dichotomy, and I think it's a continuum. Like we may exist, in my opinion, and I think I'm just going off of like John Dee's work or the Kabbalistic construct of the tree of life, this description of light descending into matter, and that if we are light descending into matter, that we exist on a spectrum, and that when you're incarnated, you're only seeing things from the level of, I guess, what would be necessary for terrestrial survival. Kind of like a video game. I've made this analogy before. When you're in a video game, you're accepting constraints. You're not the entire person that you are holding the controller when you're in the simulated environment. So there's this attenuation, there's a loss of connection, sort of an amnesia as we get condensed into this limited range. But as far as what this place is, simulation, that's a good word to describe it. But I still want to hold fast to this idea that, yeah, there is objective reality. I'm not denying that there's something more outside of our range of perception. I mean, for example, intuition. Intuition is not merely a hunch that arises from what you have physically sensed, but there's this sense of it being, and I just base this off of experience, being able to access a range of information that your physical senses wouldn't be able to bring to you. Telepathy, for example, the precognitions, synchronicities. These things suggest that we exist at various levels, but that we're only able to really work within this meat suit level. And the phrase meat suit, I know it's sort of degrading, but it's a good way of explaining it, the meat versus the metaverse. But again, I think that the grasp of objective reality is the main target. They can obliterate that. In fact, they obliterated objective reality with the advent of the fake nuke. So the nuke didn't blow up the world, it blew up the objective concept of a world, because now we moved into a world stage. Now we exist in a movie where the bad guys can blow everything up if they have a bad day. So we all have to cooperate. Mass Stockholm Syndrome in this collective circular firing squad situation where the world could end at any moment. Upside Down Guy says regular humans aren't tricking the world. A bloodline of brainwashed religious based cult is tricking the world through religion. Yes, whoever is behind it did not build it. They are its inheritors. Could it be aliens? May as well be. They may as well be. I mean, it's very alien from the way that we see things. I mean, consider this too. There's a knowledge disparity at the heart of this. And the masses right now are visually illiterate. They can't tell real from fake when it's on the screen. And the masses are trained to rely heavily on the screen for their understanding of the world. We've been so reality compromised that TikTok has to mark something as real or as AI because people can't tell anymore. You see, that's a problem because it's not just the fact that the regular people can't tell, it's that this mass media infrastructure was designed that way. It creates a relative illiteracy between those who control media and those who are controlled by it. They have effectively created an esoteric and an exoteric, a division for the initiated and the uninitiated, and it's only going further down this route as the special effects get better. I was watching some guy on Twitter looking at ISS footage, and he's sitting there looking for glitches, and he's like, look, this looks fake, that looks fake. And they're looking at this stuff, trying to be critical, but in a couple of years, you're not going to be able to see the difference, and you're not going to be able to convince people who have never questioned it. So we're going deeper into Plato's cave, and there isn't a way out without engaging in specifically skepticism. Your eyes can be fooled. You can go to people are oftentimes thinking that I'm denying the evidence of my eyes when I say I don't believe in chemtrails. It's like, no, I see what you see. It's about the interpretation. You go to a magic show, your eyes are tricked. Well, as this deep faked world enhances its technologies, we're going to be, as as humanity will just simply be lulled into a dream world, which is where we are. I mean, we were already in one, but it's getting deeper. All right, continuing here. Upside Down Guy says, people keeping up with Jones are the regular people. Yes. Mr. Trustworthy says, Tim Pool is an anagram for time loop. Eddie F says, is this bloodline different than the humans we see every day? What about technology? How can we communicate at light speed from different parts of the world? I'm reading a book right now called In the Country of the Blind, and it's about a secret society who came up with a technology for directing history, and they call it uh, Cleology, after the Greek goddess of, or the Greek muse of history, Cleo, which is basically this idea that, and I haven't made it that far into the book to understand exactly how they do it, but through the use of supercomputers and studying people, they have figured out how to control the news, control the arts, and direct society. And the premise of the book is the protagonist finds out a little too much information, and everyone connected with her are being snuffed out one by one because, of course, this secret society that controls history wants to maintain its secrecy. But it sounds like, from their perspective, that they are trying to attain a benevolent dictatorship in which mankind is rendered docile through memes. And it uses memology and memes, and it uses this language, which is also intriguing because the book came out in 1990, 6 years before Richard Brody's Virus of the Mind popularized this notion. Kevin Mooring says Truman Show. Yeah, President Truman, the nuke, and then Truman Show is, if you ask me, again, it's every individual's in a Truman Show to the extent that you buy the programming and you're accepting the screen's authority. You believe the lies. Not just the lies in the screen, but the lies that are echoed by all the believers. I mean, this whole idea of worldview warfare, what they have done is they have turned everyone into liars. Unwitting liars, witting liars, naive liars. I have a manuscript called Lie World Order that I'm developing even further, just making distinctions between the various categories of lies. Lying to yourself, logical fallacies, sleight of mind. Because we're in the age of information, and I think we can move past believing and just being believers. That's a disadvantage. It's really, I think, yeah, it's a disadvantageous position to need to be told what is real, especially now in this day and age. It's a big lie that the internet has somehow, opened up all kinds of channels of information. It's still just as constrained as it's always been. Upside Down Guy has passed out 5 more wrenches. So if you're in chat, you may be gifted with a membership, and members will be given access to the videos, which go first to members and then public, and I'll be addressing those comments daily. Just a recent addition to what we do here. I just started it before we had our interruption. Again, good news, interruption's over if you just got here. Not only did I file last night, but I got an email today that my filing was accepted. And the next steps are very clear. It's no longer going to take any of my time. The next thing is managing the traffic, managing the reaction, and doing as much damage as we can here with this. We want to do irreparable damage. The damage control operations were hilarious after the flat earth blew up, and I can't wait to see what they try to do to stop pyromaniacs on the world stage. Pyrrho, the first skeptic, to posit the idea that it's far more rational to suspend judgment on things that you can't verify than to just automatically believe it and react. You can achieve peace of mind by refusing to automatically react. And you take into account the nocebo effect and psychosomatics, and the case has been made, in my opinion. Upside Down Guy says, support tonight is to ease court fees. Well, I appreciate it. It looks like there's a good chance that if I don't get a summary judgment this month, I will be going out to Redwood City, California. It'd be great to get a trial. The only reason I haven't even discussed the possibility I almost feel like it'd be too good to be true. I don't think they would want me, of all people, to be in a position to publicly criticize Google, YouTube's censorship policies with regard to conspiracy theorists. I don't think they want that platformed. So, in my opinion, it's in their interests to end this as soon as possible and hope that I get distracted by a shiny new object. But I don't have plans to be distracted. I mean, what could be a more, I think, entertaining or conspirataining subject right now than what we're doing? We have a lens that no one else has, that no one else is allowed to have, or it's again, it's habit, it's tradition, it's conformity, but we can break all that. Yes, Nicotrauma says that very awesome of you, upside down guy, very generous, very, very helpful. And it's really been really tight here. The fact of it is, I had to hold back on other necessary expenses, such as the internet, in order to make this court thing happen. And it wouldn't have happened if I wasn't specifically supported in this. It's just one of these things. It's like paralegal, unaffordable at this time. I kind of had to wing it, but the facts are very simple, and I got a little lucky. Just the procedures out there in California, the Superior Court of California has a policy with regard to motions and transparency between parties where you're kind of showing each other's hands, and understandably they're going to underestimate me, which they did, and they made fun of my filing, which I understand. It's not my job, it's not my focus. But regardless, I believe that they were somewhat sloppy if they thought they were going to get away with it, because by admitting that a crime was committed, they justified a trial, if not a summary judgment. So it's a win, and we just had to push it past the finish line, and we did so. So the next steps are clear. I'll be keeping you updated on that. I think by the end of this month, the fireworks should begin. In fact, I'll be talking about this more kind of piecemeal. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it tonight because it's something we've talked about almost too much lately. I almost have fatigue, but I just want to point out again, it's just kind of ironic. I was like, today's the first day of hunting goldfinch, and I go out to the edge of town, and I'm next to a barbed wire fence, and a goldfinch lands right there outside my truck window. So I'm able to record the thing. It's probably a sign. Again, barbed wire, goldfinch. Ted Stryker says, glad I was able to help Tim. Things will work out. Yeah, and look, this is not about me, but rather because I'm a representative of a group of people who are targeted for deletion. This is about conspiracy theorists who were thinking too much and got ghettoized and kicked out of YouTube eventually. This is about conspiracy theorists punching Big Brother in the face publicly. We want to humiliate them. And if it goes the way I think it's going to go, there should be some opportunities for this. We are the underdog here. We were in the right and have been. And really what they have done has just been unconscionable. The evil villains that run these companies, they're going to they're going to be looked back upon by future anthropologists. Let's say 100 years from now, anthropologists look back. They're going to look at the CEOs of these companies gleefully deleting billions of comments as just very destructive organisms for what? Greed and power. Upside Down Guy says, proving Sandy Hawk or Buffalo Tops was fake through FOIA would be fun. Well, the thing is, we don't have to prove these things fake. The burden of proof was never ours. The mass media has to prove these things real. And if you constantly try to operate under the premise that you have to debunk it, you're not going to get anywhere. You're always going to be in the minority challenging a majority. And this is even true in Trutherville. A lot of the people there aren't on the level of calling things fake or calling casualties fake dead people. They're really still believing things are happening. And a lot of these are big popular channels. I talk about them often, like Mindy Robinson, for example. These people are there to prop up the official approved conspiracy theory version. So my objective is this. We get our numbers in the parallel media, and we don't need to operate under the presupposition that a burden of proof has been supplied. No, we can just outright reject it. We need to be founded on this principle. We need to be the antagonists. And then once we get the numbers, we will be like a fake news wood chipper. And they're not ready. Look, they're just 100%. The mass media was not ready for the explosion of NASA skeptics. I mean, forget the flat earth necessarily, because it's not about that. They weren't ready for skepticism about video footage, which has been used for decades as the prime method for brainwashing people. They don't want unbrainwashables. And that's what we're really discovering here is that you have mainstream brainwashing, alternative brainwashing. But if you don't have the right operating system, you can just fall into any other box that they give you. And what we're doing is we're rejecting their entire worldview as anything more than a model. And the model is not the territory. Eddie F. says, when I pass NASA in Mountain View, California, I always think, what are they doing inside the building? Well, the thing is, there's a great deal of their infrastructure that's real. Like people will say, there's no way they faked the moon landing. There were 400,000 contractors and somebody would have talked. Well, you don't need 400,000 people in the movie studio where they fake it. And it was admitted by the Apollo 11 flight director that in the late 60s, the simulation had become so sophisticated that the control room could not tell the difference between a real launch and a simulation. They crossed that line decades ago, which means 99.9% of NASA are dupes. They know as much as the normies know, although they have their specialties, engineering, aeronautics, whatever they're in. The fact of it is, the number of people who would know about the fakery would be very small. Although I'm kind of curious now, because we see all these astronauts that we know these people are just dupes. Sorry, they're insiders at the point. Duper's delight you could see on their faces. There's a point where they're let in on the secret. So it's kind of funny how these clowns pretending to be in space who look totally awkward are some of the most enlightened out of all mankind. They're in the privileged number of 500 or so people who have been let in on the big secret, and they're still like jesters. Like it's comical. It's humiliating. If you ask me, pretending to be in space like that is a humiliation exercise. Lying to children, that's just evil. But my point of it is, this is an example of just how few people are in on the big secret at the very top. It's got to be them, the support staff, but outside of that, the majority of the people in NASA would have no reason to approach that. I've heard the same terrible argument for 9/11. There were too many people. No, it doesn't work that way. It's called compartmentalization. It's called security clearances. If you've been in the military or anything like that, you've probably experienced this, where people in a different MOS that might be something that requires a security clearance won't be able. There's a wall of information. There's a wall that prevents the information from being transmitted, and this is taken very seriously. It would be a need-to-know basis thing. So this is the thing too. This is the new dynamic. Those of us who are deprogramming, once we get these numbers, we will outnumber the insiders who are at the capstone level of their pyramid. And that's a power dynamic that they probably never expected to see. Because the irony of it is, if you picture it as a pyramid, the Lie World Order pyramid has levels of in the know. These people are somewhat enlightened. You got people who are at various levels of awareness about it. But the big picture is only for those privileged few at the top. The ones who would necessarily need to know. Those at the metascript level, high level government officials, presidents, etc. They would know. That's probably why the Obamas are in on the psyops and the perception management operations and the predictive programming. I mean, they're in Netflix. Leave the world behind. So there's a very small number of people at that highest level. Then degrees of ignorance as you go down until you have total darkness at the bottom. And the bottom, the world stage, is total darkness. It's dark in Woketown, it's dark in Trutherville, and it's obviously dark in Normanland. It's just a world of ignorance. And it's going to remain so for every person there until they understand that the world stage is a construct augmented with special effects, with liars, with manipulated history, with psychological operations. But they don't have the perspective. And this is the thing, is that we got the perspective and we never had to climb their filthy pyramid. We never had to sign any NDAs or swear any oaths. I mean, I'm not compromised. None of you are compromised. None of us had to sell our souls or anything like that. Nope. We just engaged in a little bit of routine skepticism about the news of all things, which is something that most people think, oh, you just take that for granted. It's the news. Why would you question that? I mean, political news, sure, but news has the illusion of objectivity. People think it's the case that their television or their smartphone is a window to the world. But no, it's always been a filter. So what I want to point out here is this. This is not a leak. Because generally, when conspiracy theories form, it's because somebody in the know has leaked something, a whistleblower, a leaked document. And then people gather around these leaks. And you can't trust these. You can't trust leakers. None of these leakers can be trusted because these are called limited hangout operations. This is a very well understood way of controlling information. So someone says, I saw this at this military base, aliens or something. Well, now anybody interested in that topic goes to this guy because he's the source. Now the source can contaminate that information. And now they know who knows what. Now they can control that information. They can spin it. They can direct it. Mirage Men, that documentary, explains how they do this specifically with the whole alien thing. So that's what they do. They give you leaks. Oh, here's a red pill. Here's a clue. Spoon feeding you. And I don't think that's the way that we can proceed further into the future. That's just not a winning strategy. That's how you end up with a bunch of mental addicts in Trutherville, going nowhere, drowning in the sea of irrelevance. Their minds are mud flooded. What we're doing here is we are taking a different philosophical posture. So we're not looking for leaks. We're beginning with show us the proof. And the burden of proof has not been met on any of the psyops we've ever discussed. So then when you reassess things, subtracting that which cannot be verified, what are you left with? That's what we're going to find out. You're left with agnosticism, but more than that, because we have found a trail. We have found many trails. In fact, we can name metascriptors. One of the big traps of truthers for a long time has been to ascribe to a higher power or a supercomputer any of the coincidences that suggest that mass media is manipulated in a monolithic way globally. Look, there is a one world religion. It is media, and it's global. Every nation is part of the space program. Even the people who are, even competitors, nations that are enemies, they all cooperate upstairs. Why is that? Yeah, phones are open. I have about 10 or 15 more minutes here if you want to call in. 505 349 0420. The fact of it is, it's both faker than any truther or conspiracy theorist is generally willing to admit. But also, we have to remember that by calling it fake, we're doing so in the interest of objectivity, of realness. So it's kind of ironic that we're calling everything fake, but we're doing so in defense of reality. We're the only ones who have a grasp on reality in this area. And this isn't really an abstraction. For the most part, we're talking about our internal concept of the world being hijacked, plugged into a hive mind, programmed with lies and false presuppositions. It's not a small deal, but everything seems to be functioning smoothly. You look around and it's like, well, I don't see a lot of cognitive dissonance. No, it's because they're peaceably dreaming. It's a dreaming state. The only people who are experiencing any kind of angst would be the truthers or the wokes, and we know where that leads. Psychosomatics, nocebo effect, chemtrail lung. Dinah South says they've storyboarded this reality years in advance. If you look at Newsbenders, which is recommended, well, actually it's mandatory watching for auto hoaxers. It's literally that. This individual is hired to work at this news agency, and he's walked through these hallways where he's able to see, oh, this is what we're doing in 1969. This is 1970. All the way up to 1973, 5 years in advance. They have it modeled in advance. They have sets. Okay, let's see what else. Now, we didn't get into a lot of the stuff that I wanted to talk about today, but we're going to in the next couple of days. I just really wanted to jump in here and catch up because we've been off, and I want to let everybody know that we are 100% in on the court case. We're in the courtroom. It's all going to happen. Um, I mean, it's the fact is that we won. It's just a question of is it going to be sooner or later when it's finally brought into fruition. And I think the judge is the right person for this particular case, looking at their background. Eddie F says, I'm going to listen to the audiobook of that book you mentioned. Okay, I'll do a full review of it, In the Country of the Blind by Michael Flynn, about news bending, a Q file. I'm not entirely through with it. I'm going to finish it the next few days, but it's just one of these random books that I often come across random books that just have a lot of resonance with whatever I'm already working on. And the fact is, we're talking about who's bending the news, who's writing these stories, how does it work, and why? Is it a benevolent dictatorship? Is it some kind of nefarious plot? And so here I come across a book that says, yes, it's all a plot. History is a plot in every sense of the word. This is a staged reality or alternate reality game that's being directed by a hidden hand. Now, interestingly too, this character in the book is being recruited. And in Newsbenders, they pretty much said 99.9% of the population would not understand this. The rest of them work for us. Nicotrama says, I think it's ambitious to assume you've won. Well, I don't look at it as the sense of like, oh, there's a question. It's like, let's say there's a car wreck and car A hits car B and car A is a drunk driver. Like there's certain things that it's just like, okay, it's assumed damages, the facts are indisputable. And in this case, there's nothing to debate. One, we have a confession with a statement of willful and malice intent and a two-page explanation of his methodology. So we have a full-blown confession, and we have the email exchanges between the parties that resulted in a 6-year suppression of my channel because the rights were given to someone else, and I have 400 false DMCA and a copyright strike takedown notices that were not refuted, that were awarded in favor of Goldfinch. So these are on my side, and then moreover, the other side has already put into the motion, they even wrote there, that, yeah, a fraud was committed. Not only was a fraud committed, a crime was committed, they said, but that they were tricked, so they're not culpable. So we all agree that the crime happened, the evidence is there, the judge agrees, that's why she gave me 10 days to add on to my cause of action that I am asserting negligence. Now, I wasn't told specifically to add that, but I can read between the lines. So, in other words, um, I don't believe the system is rigged. I think it's indifferent. However, everything in this world favors people with access to more resources. So, in that sense, it's kind of rigged, but the system itself is neutral, indifferent, doesn't care. And that's kind of how I've approached this. But as I'm moving this thing forward, I realize, and I arrived at this when I sued them locally and they threw it out because of jurisdiction. But the local judge said to me, I would like to rule on this case, but I can't. But can you just tell me 90 seconds? Give me your best argument why I should argue that I should see it here. And I explained to him that Google, YouTube is such a huge presence that it should be considered a commons, and I shouldn't have to go to Santa Clara or San Mateo County to sue them. That they have a ubiquitous presence in the world. But that didn't work. They threw my case out because it was in the wrong state. But the judge basically told me that, yeah, you can win, but you got to go over there. That's why I went to this other location. Now, again, I have to point out here, though, that the evidence is there and I have a confession. If it wasn't for the confession, I would have significant doubts. I would have a lot of doubts about whether it would even be winnable. But who ever gets a confession? And this is why I'm saying I'm a little lucky here. It's not even luck because I'm involved in manifesting these things in the sense that if I sat back and waited on the FBI or if I had called an attorney, this would have gone nowhere. But we've been proactive about this for years, and it's been a we thing. It took dozens of us working on this to unravel this person and bring him out. But again, to me, it's a win. It's just a matter of process. There's no losing in this. So it's not overconfidence. I just think that this whole thing, it's just intimidating, it's imposing, but it's really very simple, especially with the confession. And Dewis and Paris says depends on whether they interpret it as a confession. Yeah, it is a confession. It's objectively a confession. So I can give you an example without going to it, but this will be in the documentary. Somebody asked him in a chat, how did you get Infinite Plane Society off YouTube? And he said, let me send you an email. I'll forward you my emails to YouTube that I sent to YouTube. So I intercepted those emails. Now, when I got the emails, they were, this is how I got him off the internet. I'm going to get him off the internet. This is what I sent to YouTube. Hey, dear YouTube, and I have the actual email. I am Infinite Plane Society. This other person is not. You see, I have malicious intent, I have willfulness, I have the methodology, I have the email headers. I had ran this by the FTC, and they told me this was fourth degree felony identity theft. And so, again, beyond this, even, I have a few other instances. I have evidences of wire fraud, a dozen other things, but I don't want to get too lost in it. I'm just saying there's no wiggle room here. This is a criminal matter, so it's beyond just civil. I have a strong civil case. Additionally, I have a damage complaint for 350K for cyber squatting, and the Anti-Cyber Squatter Consumer Protection Act is something that I invoked in this other suit, all waiting to be served. So I've got quite a lot. I have a lawsuit planned against Spotify as well. Spotify also has pretty much done the same thing, just not as egregious, but Spotify did the same exact thing, and I'll be hitting them next. So no, it's a win. It's a big win. It's just a matter of process. And I've got a flow chart. If this, then that. If it gets delayed, what next? I have a plan here, and so far the way I've mapped it out, there's no way that this case doesn't get resolved this year. And by all indications, and I'm going to test it, I may be able to get a summary judgment just based on the facts. Dewis and Paris says Spotify backpedaled, which is a confession of sorts. Oh, they admitted to wrongdoing. And the reason they're being sued is they would not turn over the original complaint that had my account pulled. Why? Why would they protect that person? It's an interesting question. Yes, IPS in Albuquerque is a private security company. If you drive around Albuquerque, there are black SUVs everywhere with IPS on the back. If you go into any of the Walmarts here, you have these paramilitary looking security guards with IPS on their back. They don't work for us, but I actually considered working for IPS for the uniforms. All right, I have to run. We will be back tomorrow with a lot more time. In fact, I'll be recording some video content in the morning. So if you're a new member, thanks again, Upside Down Guy. He brought like 100 wrenches in tonight. We have a lot of people who are joining the channel, and we have so much to talk about. Just kind of wanted to do an overview. And yeah, I am 100% confident in the lawsuit's eventual victory. I don't see us losing. I really don't. However, if it doesn't go perfect, if there are snags, we can deal with it. In fact, there was a snag a couple days ago. I'm like, I have a 2-day deadline and I get hit with a new fee. So, one of the things that has typified this entire project so far is our adaptability to censorship, to attempts to marginalize. And, originally, a lot of the obstacles were from within. If you remember the whole debacle with trying to get Mad Mike into the Flat Earth conference, we practically had to launch the rocket at the conference itself. Just we had to just bring it and more or less force our way in. And that's kind of been a pattern here. But I realize we're not wanted on the world stage. And to be honest, I don't even want to breathe their air. The parallel media exists outside of their programmed box. And it's not something that they've accounted for. It's not meta-scripted. It's not in their history. It's not in their plan. We are not really, we are like Neo, the anomaly. We're not something that was planned for. There is no controlled opposition platform for the level of media deconstruction that we pro-offer here. It's a really singular thing, and it's worth preserving and maintaining and moving forward. And so again, this lawsuit victory, done right, will be framed properly as it'll be viewed as conspiracy theorists hitting back. And that's what we want to do. I want to embarrass, shame, humiliate the various forces at work here. It's the least we can do. And I think we'll do it, and I'm expecting it to be fun. I want this summer, to be a summer of, I wouldn't mind a nuke, maybe another plague, some street chaos, riots. It'd be a nice backdrop against what we're going to be doing. And of course, I say this knowing it's all going to be fake. Seattle's scheduled for a nuke on 6/11, which is like less than a month. So I'm going to have to catch up on my JL26 Jurassic Liars. He has been credibly predicting the end of Seattle for June 11th. So if you're in Seattle, it's going to get likely, I believe, a Poseidon nuclear warhead from a submarine, a tsunami, 42-foot waves, something like that. Let's see. Yeah, there's so much. Look, we'll take calls tomorrow. Today is Thursday. Tomorrow's Friday. So tomorrow, all day, then Infinite Plane Saturday, and I'm pretty sure by then we'll be caught up. I'm doubling down on this. All of this is enabled by everybody here. I think we'll see the results here. I think we'll get a lot more out of this in the coming days and weeks. And I'm preparing in advance for any kind of traction when the media begins digging into this individual. So I'm preparing in advance. As I said, they don't have the damage control ready for what we're going to do, but I have a damage plan for what we are going to do. It'll be like go forth and set the world stage on fire. If you know the reference, it's Ignatius Loyola from the Jesuits. And I like that because what we're doing is we're setting the world stage on fire, figuratively speaking. Hot Skulls, that movie essentially about dissidents, but it's a movie about a plague that spreads through a mental virus that you catch if you hear it. So everyone has to wear earplugs. So we're kind of like that. We're the hot skulls on the world stage. And I'm looking forward, again, to taking this to the next level. And I think that the best way to do it, and to me this is just great justice, is doing it in the wake of taking out one of the operatives sent to shut us down. So again, thanks everyone for pushing this thing forward, and I'll see you all tomorrow. This is Space is Fake AF, Chief Crow.
Have you ever looked away from Earth into the black void?
see, because you can see the stars.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
We were never able to see stars from the lunar surface or on the daylight side of the moon.
It's not
Which is a
black
cool
and
thing.
white. I mean, it's black, but there's all kinds of little polka dots.
Space is fake AF. Space is fake AF.
There's more than stars. You can see planets. You can see moons.
you see the gas.
It don't matter. Say the sky was not the limit. We fly to the moon in another second. But we haven't been back since 1972. Destroyed all the papers and blew up the Challenger crew. Except for the twinsies. Space is fake AF. Space is fake AF.
Look out into deep space away from the sun, it's the darkest black you can imagine.